using more fossil fuels is not incompatible with using more of those, some of those other things. So the basic, I think three basic facts that we have to recognize. So one is that low cost, reliable energy is essential to what I call human flourishing. As you mentioned, our ability to live long, healthy, opportunity filled, fulfilling lives. That's clear because what low cost, reliable energy does is it allows us to use machines to become productive and prosperous. And before human beings could use machines on a significant scale to become productive and prosperous, we were very poor. And if you look at the poorest countries, they're the countries they're the countries that are using machines the least. They are manual labor societies, not what I call machine labor societies. So that's one. And then number two is that the world desperately lacks low cost, reliable energy. We have 3 billion people using less electricity individually than a typical refrigerator uses where I live in the United States. We have a third of the world using wood and animal dung for heating and cooking. There are 6 billion people in the world, including most people in Brazil, who use less energy than we in, say, the United States would consider acceptable. And so my view is if low cost, reliable energy is essential to human flourishing and there's a desperate lack of it, that means there's a moral imperative to develop as much energy as possible, as quickly as possible. And if you look at the options on the table right now, what you find is that today, fossil fuels are 80% of the world's energy, and they are still growing despite a lot of global opposition and despite 100 years of competition. And if you look at solar and wind, which are getting a lot of hype, they are failing to replace fossil fuels. What they are doing is they're adding. So there's not an energy transition, there's an energy addition. And even there, solar and wind are having a lot of problems that require them to be subsidized. The main problem is they don't provide reliable electricity, which means they need nearly 100% backup, which mostly comes in practice from fossil fuels because batteries are not remotely cost effective to back up solar and wind on a significant scale. So I think it's and I think nuclear, say, is the most promising alternative, but it's been held so far back by the green movement that it's going to take generations, to maybe ultimately, significantly displace fossil fuels. So for the next several decades, if you want the world to have energy that billions of people need to flourish, you absolutely need to continue using fossil fuels. You need more fossil fuels, actually, and the idea of going net zero would prematurely end billions of lives. And I don't think that should be discussed in a civilized way. I know that's controversial. I know companies support this idea, but I do not think morally they should support it, and I don't think internally they believe it.